Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bumper Radio. I was sure last weekend was our last cool weekend. I was right. It's going to be hot today. Welcome to Bumper Radio. I'm Dave Riccio here along with Matt Allen, and we are here every Saturday from 11 to noon helping you with your car, you, the motoring public. If you've got car questions, we've got answers. So we encourage you to give us a call at 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR. You can also text us if you're shy at 411-923. Today on the Bumper to Bumper Roadmap, we're going to go over an email this week about cars and oil and all that stuff. Always taking texts and phone calls. And does your car make funky noises? The kind of funky noises that bother you but you haven't done anything about? Which kind of noises do you need to be worried about? Which kind of noises can you live with? I don't like noises in my car.
The only funky noise coming out of my car is coming out of the stereo, Dave. I know. So noises, they can be annoying. I know that's one of my pet peeves driving a car, and especially on a road trip. You get this whistle.
Hear it the whole way there.
This wind noise. I know in my wife's car, the turn signal switch, you just cruising it on the freeway, and all of a sudden, it's just a little plastic thing. Tick-tick-tick. Oh, it drives me nuts. And it's not just turn up the stereo to make it go away noise.
That's the best way to fix them.
Right, huh? And sometimes the cheapest way. But we can't just ignore these noises, though. That's the problem. And fixing them can certainly be a challenge. We've got a good example of a noise gone wrong, or a noise repair gone wrong right here from the newsroom. But what I hear may not be what you heard, and maybe it's a different tone. And when does it do it? So what's the best way to make sure that your shop is fixing the right noise? What happened, Dave? What's the deal?
Well, I got a call from Bob McClay early in the week, and he had a noise with his car, so he took it to his regular dealership where he had a regular relationship. And they called him and they said, "Hey, Bob, it's going to cost $500, I think was roughly what it was, to fix that noise." And he said, "Go ahead."
Well, but before they got to that point, he had to take the car in. Wasn't there a conversation about the noise?
Yeah, he talked about the noise. He told him, what was going on, and, gave it to some person. But the person that looked at the noise was somebody totally different than the person he talked to. So there's he's got to convey the noise to the guy taking the keys, who's got to convey the noise to a dispatcher, who's got to then convey the noise to a technician. So there's kind of a chain there. And
I think when I was in kindergarten or first, second grade, whatever, we did that thing where you sit in a circle like duck, duck, goose, and you tell something to the person next to you, and then it has to go around and see how the story changes when it finally gets back to you. And it was never the same.
No, not anywhere close. And it's like, what? What are you talking about? So they call him and say, "Okay, Bob, we've checked out your car. It's going to be $450, $500, something like that to fix it." He said, "Well, it's got to be done. Go ahead, fix it."
To fix your concern.
To fix your concern. So they go ahead, do the repair. He picks it up the next day. He gets in the car, starts up in the parking lot, starts to cruise out of the parking lot.
Okay, so he didn't rediscover the noise the next day. He's still at the repair shop at the dealership, puts the keys in the car, and
pulling out of the parking lot from the dealership, and what's he hear? He hears that noise. Oh my goodness!
Oopsie daisy!
So he knows he knows his wallet is $500 lighter. He goes back in. I don't know if Bob's the guy I can really see getting mad, but I bet he was a little hot under the collar when he went in there. So he grabbed a dealership representative, took him out, got in the car, and they drove it across the parking lot. And he goes, "That is the noise I wanted fixed. What did you guys fix for my $500? And the guy heard the noise. Oh, that noise.
Oopsie daisy again.
This is a problem in all auto repair shops, and we're not picking on the dealership. We're talking about the communication between the consumer, that's you, if you're paying somebody to fix your car, and the business or the service writer, the guy at the counter. That communication on noises, what they fixed for Bob was an exhaust leak from the exhaust manifold gasket. And on a vehicle that's 10 years old, not uncommon to hear a little bit of exhaust leak in the morning. If you're somebody that can live with an exhaust leak, tick, tick, tick.
I would debate that with you a little bit. But, yeah, it wouldn't be an uncommon repair to have. But just because you have a 10-year-old car doesn't mean you need to live with an exhaust
You don't have
leak,
to live with that
right?
noise, but it's certainly not going to put you on the side of the road.
Correct.
Little cold start ticking in the morning that goes away after the car's been running for 3 minutes. I can live with that. I could think of $500. I'd rather spend my money on
Sure.
something else. So they fixed that noise, which is a noise that they saw was Bob's noise. And when he got back in the car, the noise he was hearing was a more severe noise, which was planetary gear going bad inside his transmission. I was pretty impressed that Bob actually heard that.
Really? And
Yeah.
because I remember you talking about you weren't 100% convinced it was a transmission.
No, we drove it
easier.
around, and it wasn't. In the dealership, kept it for 2 more days once he showed them that noise for them to figure out that it was a transmission noise. So he called me up, told me what happened, said they want to sell me a transmission because that's what the noise is. So I said, well, Bob, you got a friend in the transmission business. You got to just bring it over to my place. So that's how we got to look at the vehicle. But I don't think there was any mischief or any
No.
wrongdoing or anything like that. It would still make it hot under the collar. Hey, I just spent $500 and you guys didn't fix anything I wanted fixed. But we don't want that to happen to you. And the best way for that not to happen to you is to get the service rider or whoever's taking your keys, whoever needs to hear it, bring them out with you. Put them in the car and say, this is what I'm hearing. Otherwise, they're going to fix the wrong noise. Very possible.
Yeah, it's very possible. In the shop, a shop that's doing their due diligence will invite you to say, hey, when you're dropping your car off for that noise, we might need to spend 15 minutes. At least, maybe possibly go for a drive, at least go out in the parking lot and attempt to hear the noise. If not, we're going to ask a lot of questions at the counter. I mean, there's all kinds of different noises. It's going to feel like an interrogation. We have to know. And I think some people might get annoyed by.
They do. They're like,
Does it do it when it starts? Does it do it when it's idling? Does it do it when you're turning? You make up any of these different scenarios, and they're like, "Come on, can't you just?"
That's
What
the
do you-
classic customer. Is just do your job. That's what you do. You figure this stuff out. Exactly. That is our job, and that's why we are grilling you to figure out which noise you're looking for. So don't be that guy that goes, well, you figured out. You're the technician. Don't be that guy.
So how's it work? We're at the counter, Dave, and I come in. I've got a noise. There's going to be some line of questioning. When does it do it? Okay.
My
all
question
the
is,
time.
does it-
Usually, all the time is the first answer. So
Oh,
now we have to break it down from there.
Well, every now and then. I don't like that answer.
That's a tough one.
But I'm going to want to know, is it a noise you hear when you're moving down the road? That's going to be the first thing I'm looking at because we're kind of transmission-related guys. So we're already thinking like that. But does it increase with road speed? So the faster I go. So if I'm starting at 0 miles per hour, I don't hear anything. At 10 miles per hour, maybe a little something develops, but not really. When I get going 40 miles an hour, yes, it's making noise. By the time I'm going 60, it's screaming at me. I'm looking for, is it happen when you're moving or when you're stopped? If you're moving, does it increase with road speed? And then at what speed is it most prevalent to you? So I'm going to dial into that because we've got noises that happen while you're moving, and then we got noises that happen while you're stopped, and then we've got noises that happen when you're moving around the parking lot, you're doing a 3-point turn. You might hear that.
Right. So if it's a noise while we're moving, then we want to know, is it relative to engine speed or vehicle speed? Those are two different things.
Two different things.
And so if we're thinking about vehicle speed, we're talking about bearings. For example, if you coast or let off the gas, does it still make the same noise? In that case, we might be looking at wheel bearing, drive shaft, possibly U-joint or other bearing. But can you influence the noise by, say, maybe going from 45 up to 50 and slowly light deceleration back down to 45? If you can change the tone then that points us to another direction. Maybe we're looking at a differential or an axle or something like that.
Well, and then with that line of questioning, we may be busy. We may not be able to get behind the counter and go for a road test with you. That's where we want you as a consumer to insist upon it. But as we do this interview, we're going to decide, well, I'm really not getting a good read off what noise this customer is hearing, so I'm going to go jump in the car with him. So that's why the interview happens. Well, it's funny when I jump in cars with people and it's a noise. To me, it sounds like a wheel bearing. Well, I start swerving the car and I got to look at him and say, "Really, I'm not drunk. I'm not inebriated here.
Not today, anyway.
But this is I'm well below the legal limit. It's only 10 in the morning, so I'm going to swerve the car and I'm going to say, I'm not crazy. I'm doing this for a point. So when we come back, we got open lines at 602. 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTR. And maybe you've got a noise in your car that you can't seem to get fixed. You take it to the auto shop. It never makes a noise when you get there, and you feel stupid for doing it. We'll talk about that. You're listening to Matt and Dave, your KTR car guys, on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
All righty, welcome back to Bumper Radio. I'm Matt Allen. This other guy here with me is Dave Riccio, and as always on Saturdays from 11 to noon, we are here at KTAR on Bumper to Bumper Radio, helping you with your car. And I'm not washing my car today. I got mine done yesterday. So
if you guys haven't seen Matt dance, it is a real treat.
It's not a treat. It's probably pretty pathetic. It's a treat if you're looking for some video to make fun of, I guess. But
you're that guy. You're that guy grabbing his ankle, drinking. He's in the middle of the dance floor all by himself, just wiggling his leg up and down.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I'm not. Maybe if I get a little bit of sauce in me, I'm all right with the dancing. But no.
The True Serum or the Dancing Juice is another name for that.
Is that what it's called? Well, we've been talking about noises, and it was all triggered by noise repair gone wrong. Started off here in the newsroom with Bob, but it's difficult. And like you said, Dave, it's not anybody's fault necessarily. They fixed the wrong noise. It's happened to all of us.
Oh, yeah.
When you're going into the shop for a noise or a sound, even sometimes a drip on the ground. I mean, we've fixed leaks. Oh, I knew that was leaking. I wasn't worried about that. It was the other leak.
Which leak do you care about? Which noise do you care about? And the thing is there's noises in your car that, I'll give you an example. My brother's differential. I get in this car. The car's only got 40,000 miles on it, and I am just cringing in the passenger seat because I can hear his differential bearings making noise. And don't you hear that? Hear what?
Nope.
And then that was at 40,000 miles. By 70,000 miles, I'm literally hitting myself in the head. I can't stand riding with my brother because his differential bearings are so bad. You don't hear noises in your car necessarily that we're going to hear. So it's always advisable to throw somebody else in your car and let them drive it and go, man, did you hear that? Whatever. Because like you described, the mattress or the old pair of shoes, it gradually gets worse over time. The other way I could describe it is, how would you boil a frog? Well, very slowly. You put them in the water and then you turn up the heat.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's how noises get. They get worse over time.
I used to live over by Tatum and Greenway, and my house used to back up to Tatum. A couple of years, I never heard those cars in the morning. Someone would stay the night in my house, and I'm like, I couldn't sleep, the traffic. And I move away from Tatum, and it's a little quieter. I didn't realize how much I slept in when I moved, but you just tend to get used to them. It's just background noise at some point, and so yeah, it is good to have somebody else drive your car. We pick up on things that people didn't even know were wrong with their car.
Well, we immediately got about 4 or 5 texts in regard to noise, so I think we hit a topic here that people are living with noises. But it's one of those noises you don't know if it's really a problem. Do I need to worry about that? And some you do, some you don't. And I wish I could tell you which ones you do and which ones you don't. But this person here has a 2002 Honda Accord. And when I put the car in drive, it makes gear noise like a whine from first gear to fourth gear. It's an automatic. Should I be worried? Well, we didn't talk about noises that are sitting still. So I would like to know if that noise or that whine is related to the engine. It could be a whining, so and it's going to sound like it's part of the transmission, but every time the transmission shifts, your engine is changing RPM. So you go from 1,000 RPM to 3,500 RPM, back down to 1,000. So it may sound like a transmission noise, but it may not be. One thing I know about Honda automatic transmissions is they are a gear-to-gear transmission. So they look very much like a standard on the inside, even though it's an automatic. So they are inherently noisier than the next brand, and they do develop some noise in them. So it may not be a bad noise at all, but to really define, is it that, can we hear that noise sitting still? And that's what we wanted to get to. So if I've got the car in park or in neutral and I just rev it up to 3,500 RPMs and bring it back down and up to 3,500 RPMs and bring it back down, does it make the same noise as it would as if I was driving down the road?
Well, and then in that case, Dave, in your shop, now it's a process of elimination. Let's just say, okay, we can duplicate this in the service bay. We don't have to be driving. It is relative to engine speed. So I know in my shop, now we start peeling the belts off. Or we're going to maybe take a stethoscope first and listen. We're going to listen to the bearings in the alternator. We're going to turn the air conditioner on and off and see if that makes a difference. Maybe we'll take off, if it's got one belt, we'll take it off and see if it still makes the noise. If it does still make the noise, and we know it's not one of these belt-driven accessories, so we don't have to worry about that. It's really going to start changing the course of where we go. It's a methodical process of elimination sometimes. I know we have a, you've got the $1.98 stethoscope with the little deal, the aluminum stick on the end, but I've also got a pair of electronic ears, if you will, and you've got, chassis ears.
Wireless chassis ears.
But this other deal that I have, it's a high-end set of headphones on an electronic device. I mean, we can hear a vacuum leak that's like quarter pound of pressure loss per hour or something
Man,
like
you
that.
guys are fancy. All we got is a big, long screwdriver. My grandfather used to hold against his ear and stick it up against the alternator to see if that was making noise. That's one way to do it.
You can listen to fuel injectors like that.
Until you accidentally hit the fan blade and that screwdriver pokes your eye out.
Exactly. Well, we've got open lines, 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTAR. And again, if you're too shy to call and you want to text, 411-923, and we'll play around there on the text messages.
Well, up first this segment, we're going to go with Frank in Mesa on a 1977 Chevy. Looks like a 350 engine or 350 transmission. Go ahead, Frank. What can we help you with?
Yes, I recently had a transmission put in, and when I back up, sometimes it doesn't grab right away, and when it doesn't, but when it does grab, it goes like a big old thunk, then it kicks in.
How long of a delay, if you put it in reverse, would it be a 1/1000 count, 2/1000, 4 seconds, 5 seconds?
Like a 1006.
A 6-second delay?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty healthy delay that you have. How long has that transmission been in there?
About 3 months.
About 3 months?
And it started doing that after they put it in. The guys, mechanics, it's okay, it's all right, And then I talked to him a while back, and he said, well, just change the transmission fluid, put a new screen on it, which they did not do when they put it in. They just hurry,
Sure, you bet. Well, that is an awful long delay, 6-second delay when you put it in reverse, especially on a fresh transmission. The reason I asked about age is when a transmission gets to be, 15 years old or 10 years old, the seals can start to get hard, and so sometimes we'll have a delay there. But there's something going on that if you put that thing in reverse, it doesn't grab right away, and when it does grab, it grabs hard. So there's more work to be done. Make sure the linkage is all good and it's actually getting all the way into reverse and it's not like halfway in there. So there's a manual valve that does that.
Well, and I don't think this is the case with that 6-second delayed engagement, but it's not uncommon to have someone, you put the car in reverse or drive, and just a split second later, then there's a clunk or a noise or it feels, and we might be looking at a bad engine mount or something where you think you have a transmission problem, but you really don't have a transmission problem, maybe just a mount or something.
When we come back, we've got open lines at 602-277-5827, 602-277-KTR. We're going to start with Mike and text at 411-923. You're listening to Dave and Matt on Bumper to Bumper Radio. Well, welcome back to Bumper Radio. I am Dave Riccio. Standing next to me is Matt Allen, and we've got Brianna playing some fresh new music for us, which we appreciate, other than the fact that I got to watch Matt dance.
Some fresh beats, huh?
As long as you don't start twerking, is that what they call it, twerking?
Well, after I saw you do it, Dave, I will not punish you with mine.
I do. So anyway, we got some text, and we've got someone with a Mazda 3 that's got a question about noise. It starts at like 30, 40 miles an hour and changes a little bit.
Well, yeah, the problem is around 30 miles an hour, you hear this noise, and then if you swerve, I think what I'm reading in the text here, what I'm interpreting, is if you turn the wheel one direction or the other, the noise gets worse. You turn the wheel right, and the noise gets worse coming from the driver's side. That's a classic example of what I would believe to be a wheel bearing on that Mazda 6. So
I think you said that backwards. If you turn to the
No, you turn to the right. So if you picture a race car.
If you bank?
Yeah, right, Dave. If you bank. Picture a race car. They're coming to the green flag. They're going to be swerving the tires to warm the tires up and scrub all the junk and stuff off of them. So you swerve a little bit to the right, or you make a lazy turn, maybe a freeway off ramp. You're going to maybe the transition from the 51 to I-10 or something like that. And the noise gets worse. So what happens when you turn to the right, you're shifting the weight to the left and you're loading that bearing. It gets noisier when you turn the wheel that way. And then you straighten back up, the noise goes away. Maybe it gets quieter when you go to the left because now you're loading down the right side and taking some load off the left front wheel bearing. So that, to me, is a classic example, which he's talking about, of a wheel bearing, when you can influence the noise with a slight change in direction of steering.
And it almost sounds like a prop plane. I mean, that's what I've heard people describe it to. And it just gets louder with speed. So at 30, it sounds one way. At 50, it's just a louder version of that same noise.
Oh, and they can groan. I mean, a bad wheel bearing can make, say, 3 or 4 different types of noises: grinding, growling, groaning. You ever have a customer at the counter and they're making those noises, and it's fun to play the game? Can you do that again?
We actually have we got video on the counter, and it's going to show up on your Facebook page. You at the counter going, it goes like this. Don't be embarrassed to make those noises at the counter. We're going to go with Dave in Gilbert on a 2005 Chevrolet Cobalt with, it looks like, a Standard. Go ahead, Dave. What can we help you with?
Well, can you hear me?
You bet.
Okay, good. I am in a dilemma, big-time dilemma. Was on the 29th, real short, heading to Tucson, and just got outside of the city, and the front end of my car started shaking extremely bad. It felt like the engine was going to shake out of the car, and I had my wife with me. We immediately pulled off to the right, and I crossed over to the other side of the freeway as soon as I could, put my hazard lights on, got down to 45, and drove back home, and then took it into a Chevy dealer. And we found that as we drove the car, that the shaking slowed down under 50. Anything above 50, it started getting really bad, and it didn't start doing that in the very beginning. Well, interestingly enough, as it didn't start doing it until probably about 15, 20 minutes into the drive. We had to go to a couple stops. So this happened the day before to my wife as she was going to work. So then I said, okay, we took it to the dealership, and they said, okay, we found the problem. And they said it was the tire rods that needed to be replaced, and then it needed to have what they call a high-speed tire rotation done. And they were going to do it, but I said, I have these tires that are under warranty through Discount Tires, and I said, it's free.
Dave, let's cut down to the chase. So did they fix the tie rod ends? Did they repair the tie rod ends, and you didn't have them rotate the tires? Did they solve the problem, or so? What exactly is your dilemma?
They fixed the rods. They replaced the rods, and I took it to Discount Tires. They did the high-speed rotation at 80 miles an hour, and the problem still exists.
Okay.
So I called them back up, and they said, before you even come in here, it's a Discount Auto Tire problem. They're telling me they probably didn't do their job. I went back there yesterday. I had to set an appointment. I'm going there today at 12:30. They're going to take the tires off, re-look at them again, and the guy said, Dave, I can just about promise you it's not a tire issue. I have plenty of tread on the tire. I mean, the tires are definitely needing to be replaced, but not at this moment. There's still probably a little bit of tread on there.
So what I would do then, if Discount Tire is gonna double check their work, do that before you take it back to the dealer. When you said to me that that they replaced the tie rod end, I mean, at first I was thinking you have a bad tire, you have a bubble or an egg in the tire or something like that. Tie rod end is not going to make the car shake. Now, the tie rod end might have caused the tire to wear out, resulting in some other damage, but I'm having a hard time buying into the fact that
kind of sound like it happened all of the sudden, because he's driving out of Tucson on the 29th, and he's just about there, and all of a sudden the thing starts shaking. I can't see a tie rod end all of a sudden being a problem. instantly.
No.
Kind of sounded like it happened and now it's there. And the other thing I didn't quite follow was he said it was over 50, and now then he was talking about 80 miles an hour after he had the high-speed rotation and balance, all that stuff. I would say this would be a perfect instance to go, when you go to Discount Tire, get the store manager to go for a drive with you.
Yeah, I don't know if they do that, but the only thing with Discount Tire not driving the car with you, in my opinion, I don't think they test drive cars. First of all, they might go for a ride with you, but Discount Tire doesn't fix that stuff. So it's kind of like a laboratory setting. I can take those tires, and Discount has the right equipment, the road force balancing at some of their locations, and they can make sure that tire is not causing your problem without having to drive your car. I am pretty sure of that. They know if the tire's out of round, they know if it's out of balance, they know if you have a bent wheel or something like that. They can tell all that without driving the car. So they may or may not do that with you. And then maybe it's a time after you've confirmed that maybe you don't go back to that dealer. Maybe it's time to find one of the bumper-to-bumper shops. I know there's a couple of them in the Gilbert area. Desert Car Care is one of them. And something like this is right up their alley. This is a simple, you would think a simple repair. We could still have a drive axle problem or something else going on. But you can find shops like Desert Car Care at bumpertobumperradio.com.
Well, thanks so much for the call, Dave. We are going to go with Jamie in, not sure what part of town Jamie's in, but she's got a 2004 Silverado. Go ahead, Jamie. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Yeah, I have an air conditioning problem with my truck. It seems like sometimes my air conditioner doesn't cool very good, and then sometimes it'll cool real good, and then I'll be driving down the road, and all of a sudden the heater will be blasting full blast heat.
Does that have, on your Silverado, does that have his and hers controls, if you will, dual controls, and is it an electronic digital thermostat, or is it just the blue and red dial?
No, it's got the dual his and hers.
Okay. Well, it sounds to me in that case, if that's intermittent like that and you've got heat, it's definitely not a charge level. We're probably looking at a blend door or a mode door function that's not working right. And what that is, the blend door, the air conditioner is going to put out as cold as air as it possibly can all the time. The heater is going to put out the same heat all the time. The way that you achieve, say you want your setting at 74 instead of 60, they're going to blend a little bit of heat with the cold to get the temperature you want to achieve. So it sounds like that blend door is losing its home and giving you 100% heat intermittently all the time, or getting lost in there. So it's going to be a dash operation. Somebody has to have a scan tool to go in with bi-directional controls and command that thing open and closed and see what it's doing, see how it's working. If it's getting hung up, maybe the door is binding or something. It's difficult to say, but that's
bi-directional controls. You say that like I would even know what that is. I do, but
well, you can
you know what it is.
Well, but you need to be able to tell the car to control. You can go get a $199 scan tool or code reader at the auto parts store and plug it in, and you can see data, but you can't do anything about the data. You can't control. Picture this being the EKG machine. We can read what you're doing, but if I'm the doctor, I can push a button and make your leg lift. Well, that's what we can do with the right scan tool. We can make the window roll up and down right from sitting there with the laptop in the car. That's what bi-directional control is.
Well, thanks so much for the call, Jamie. We are going to go with Mike in Peoria on a 2014 Chevrolet Silverado. Go ahead, Mike. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
I listen to you guys all the time. I haul stage and sound gear, and I'm driving on the weekend listening to you. We used to do it with a 2011 Silverado with a 5.3, and it pulled our trailer around pretty good. We just updated to the 14, and it's got the same 5.3, but I got to sell this truck for you because this baby really pulls a lot better with the same equipment and everything. The only issue is the fuel pump is so noisy. It sounds like my old hydraulic lifters in my 73 Plymouth on my 318.
Do you know, does that truck have the direct fuel injection now? I think the Chevy has come out with that, or or it's coming soon.
They said it was some type of race car injection.
Well, it is. It's direct injection, and what's happening there? You have a high pressure mechanical fuel pump. They inject that pressure into the system. I mean, a traditional fuel system is going to have maybe 40 to 60 pounds of pressure at the injector with an electronic control. Now they're injecting the fuel directly into the engine or directly into the cylinder under high pressure. And 1,200 pounds of pressure is where that fuel could be coming out of the injector at. So it just takes that mechanical pump. It just takes a lot of work to get that pressure up, and they're noisy. That's what they put. We see now on Mercedes and Audis and even the Hyundais and Kias and anything that has direct injection. Man, that engine cover, that a beauty screen or that shield, if you will, that's got a half an inch or an inch thick of foam insulation on it now to get that noise down.
Just to tone it down. Well, thanks for the call, Mike. We got a text that's similar, and I'm pretty sure everyone out there has a noise in their car that they're either living with. They mentioned to their local mechanic, and he didn't really have any words of wisdom, so they just live with it. But I got it. This one it's got a 2003 Chevy Suburban 1500, 150,000 miles on it, and he has a sound like the fuel pump coming from the back of the vehicle after driving for a while. You can hear the pump wind down when turning the car off. Been happening for years. He's just been living with it. Very intermittent, once or twice a month. That'd be hard to find, wouldn't it?
That'd be a tough one to find, but I could say with a fuel pump failure rate on that particular year of truck, it's not so bad. You could have a restricted fuel filter, but again, that's not intermittent. If the fuel filter is restricted, it's going to cause the pump to work harder. It could make it whine, but you would think it's going to happen all the time. But if you could drill that down, or if you could confirm for sure that it was the fuel pump making noise, I would buy a little bit of insurance and just go replace it. It's one of those things, you are going to do it.
Yeah, if that's original fuel pump at 150,000 miles, that thing it's starting to have some chest pains.
Make sure you call your insurance company and make sure your road service is up to date, because you will be using it. So again, it's one of those things. We're going to do it now or we're going to do it later. If you're going to keep the car and you can identify, yes, in fact, it is the fuel pump, you want to put a good Delphi or Delco original equipment fuel pump in there. It's got the sending unit for the gas gauge. It's all in one deal. And always make sure you replace the fuel filter too.
Well, I'm going to see if I can sneak in an email for the week. We got an email that was in regard to engine oil being over full. So does that hurt my car? And it's just apparently up 5/8 of an inch above the full mark on the engine dipstick.
I saw that email too, Dave, and I would say no. This gentleman was talking about a Hyundai or a Kia, a smaller import car, and it's 5/8 of an inch, like you said, overfull in the dipstick. Is that going to hurt it? Well, we don't know yet, but I think it's a long answer, but no is the quick answer. No, it's not going to hurt it.
In the immediate, it's not a problem.
Not a big deal. Someone may have overfilled. A lot of kids at the lube shop, it's a 4-cylinder, let's put in 4 quarts. It's not necessarily the way it works, not even the way it works at all. Some of these smaller 4-cylinder engines, they only hold 3.2 quarts of oil. They barely hold any capacity. So it's not too hard to overfill them. Over the long term, we can see catalytic converter damage from the consumption or burning of the oil. We can see carbon buildup issues in the pistons and rings, and because the crankcase is burning too much of that oil.
For sure.
That's your answer.
When we come back, we're going to finish up some more phone calls and text. You're listening to Matt and Dave, Bumper to Bumper Radio.
All righty, welcome back to Bumper Radio. I'm Matt Allen. He's Dave Zericchio.
Dave's Ricchio.
He's Dave's Ricchio. He is Dave Ricchio. And as always, we're here Saturday at 11 till noon helping you with your car. And Dave, I think we struck a nerve today talking about annoying noises in people's car. And the texts are blown up, the phones are blown up. So I think we ought to get right after it and grab one of these callers. How about Don with a Cadillac? Has something going on. Don, what can we help you with?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you. This is actually for my son. He's 22. He just bought a 2006 Cadillac, very low miles, 36,000 actually, from the dealership. And we took it for a ride, or he took me for a ride, and I noticed a knocking noise when he swerves the wheel a little bit, and it seems to be on the left side. We looked at the history of it, and it looks like they did an alignment. But is that something serious? Should I take that back to the dealership? Or
well, I think it's no way to know if it's serious until somebody looks at it. But I will tell you, an alignment usually does not fix problems, and it especially will not fix a noise. So I suspect what you happen if you have something happening when you're turning, you could have a ball joint problem.
Something loose.
You could not necessarily loose, but you could have a sway bar bushing, a sway bar link, a control arm bushing. There's something going on in there. So that is something that definitely needs to be driven. I don't know that it necessarily has to go back to the dealership, depending on how recently you bought the car. If you start to talk about an expense to have that repaired, yeah, maybe we should go back to the dealership first, see what they have to say. If they're not going to take care of it, or if it's not something that's under warranty, so to speak, well, then maybe you go elsewhere. This is now the time to go establish a relationship. Your son's 22, time to start taking care of the car and being responsible, I guess. Let's take that car, go to bumpertobumperradio.com and go find a shop in your neighborhood, maybe where near you work, and get a relationship going and let them help you get lots of years out of that car.
Well, thanks so much for the call, Don. We're going to go with Jerry in Phoenix. Looks like he's got a 99 Suzuki Grand Vitara. Go ahead, Jerry. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Yeah, it's got 134,000 miles on it. The passenger window doesn't go up right away. The driver's side won't go. Once it's up, it won't go down. Once it's down, it won't go up. Should I take it to my mechanic and have him do a diagnostic and see if it's worth keeping, or should I buy a new car?
Well, I think that's only you can answer that question for yourself, Jerry. But yeah, it's definitely worth taking it to your local mechanic that you use and have a relationship with, and have them take a look at that. But not only if you're really at the cusp of, do I want to buy a new car? Do I want to get rid of this older car? Let's have them not only take a look at the window problem.
Let's look at everything.
Everything. How's it driving? How's the tires? What's the condition of the brakes? What does the next year, 6 months, 18 months, whatever the case is, what's the future look like for this car? And that's the approach that I would take.
So we call that a comprehensive vehicle analysis. Top to bottom, bumper to bumper radio.
Everything. The good, the bad, the ugly. We want to know it all so we can make a good decision.
As far as it's time to move on with the vehicle
or not. And I know in my shop, we will take if you can't get your window up or down or whatever the case is on a power window, and those can be expensive to fix. It's not, a good price range, $300 to $500, and I would be leaning towards the $500 range personally if it's a window regulator. But we'll fix some of the other windows in the upright position. We won't do the driver's window. We will not permanently put those up. And I'm even reluctant now with all the attorneys out there. Something happens, they're going to come knocking on your door because you fixed the window up and the passenger couldn't get out, or something happened. So that's a tough call sometimes.
Well, we're going to try and sneak one in. Joe, you're going to have to be quick on a 2002 GMC Yukon. Go ahead. You're on Bumper to Bumper Radio.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. When I'm driving down the road, and all of a sudden, the emergency brake light and the ABS light will appear on my dash for no reason when I'm just doing 30 down the road.
Great. I'm thinking we've got. I know a lot of those. They got ABS module problems and ground problems on that ABS module. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Yes, with same deal. That when your ABS light comes on, you're gonna. In your case, it's going to turn the red light and the yellow light at the same time. That's not necessarily a dangerous situation. Red is stop, obviously. Yellow is caution. When we have an ABS light coming on, it's not like we need to pull over, we need to stop right now. It just means that the ABS is not going to work, or it may not work.
You just have traditional braking.
Yes.
But the ABS may be eliminated or taken out of operation because there's a problem and it can't function properly. So yes. The fail-safe is going to be traditional braking.
And typically, now, if you go to a dealership environment or the Chevy dealer, you're going to find that they're going to want to replace the whole unit, typically, the electronics and the mechanical part of that ABS control module. They have bad solder joints in those on the inside of the electronics. We will actually take those off. You can still drive the truck. We send the electronics out. They fix them in some place in Idaho, or I'm not sure. Moscow, Idaho is actually where it is. And then we can put it back in the car. It's a much more economical, and it's a quality repair.
Well, thanks for joining us. Remember, if you've got a great auto shop relationship, we want you to stick with them. We're not homewreckers here. But if you're looking for a shop to start a good relationship with, bumpertobumperradio.com. There's a list of shops that are hand-picked by Matt and myself and Michael Henry as well. And they're shops you can go to, give them the keys, and trust them fully. We'll see you next week.